I never told anyone this story, except my cousin, because even now, I'm not entirely sure what was happening that night.
This happened last summer in Tennessee. I was 19 at the time and working part-time for a small landscaping company. One Friday, my boss asked if I could drive a trailer full of equipment to another crew working near Nashville. It wasn't a huge job, and he offered to pay extra since it was a long drive.
I left around 6 p.m. Everything was normal for the first few hours. The roads were busy, the weather was clear, and I had music playing through the speakers. Around midnight, I was still about 2 hours away from my destination. I needed gas and coffee, so I stopped at one of those older gas stations right off the interstate. It wasn't completely isolated, but it definitely wasn't in a town. There were woods behind it, and only a few buildings nearby. The place was open 24 hours. When I pulled in, there was only one other vehicle parked near the side of the building, an older white cargo van. No company logo, no license plate on the front, just a plain white van. I remember noticing it because it looked strange sitting there by itself. Inside the store, there was only one employee working, a woman probably in her 50s. I grabbed an energy drink and walked to the counter. While she was scanning it, she glanced through the front windows and asked, "That your truck outside?" I told her yes. She nodded and said, "Don't stay here too long." I laughed because I thought she was joking. She didn't laugh back. She simply handed me my receipt. That should have been enough for me to leave immediately. Instead, I went outside and started fueling the truck. While I was standing there, I noticed the cargo van. The headlights suddenly turned on, then off again. A few seconds later, they turned on again, then off. The van never moved. I remember thinking maybe someone inside was having electrical problems. Then I looked toward the driver's seat. There was a person sitting behind the wheel, watching me. The distance was too far to make out details. I could only see the outline of their head. I looked away. When I checked again, they were still staring. At that point, I started feeling uncomfortable. I finished pumping gas and got into my truck. Instead of leaving immediately, I opened my phone and started scrolling through messages. I don't know why. Maybe because I didn't want whoever was in that van to think I was nervous. A minute later, I looked up. The van was moving, slowly. Not leaving, not parking somewhere else, just rolling across the lot toward me. The speed was so slow, it almost didn't look like it was moving. Eventually, it stopped, about 3 parking spaces away. The headlights switched off. The engine stayed running. I remember staring at it, waiting for someone to get out. Nobody did. About 30 seconds passed. Then a minute. Nothing. I finally decided I was being paranoid. I started the truck and pulled toward the exit. As I drove away, I checked my mirror. The van pulled out behind me. At first, I told myself it was a coincidence. People leave gas stations all the time. But after 10 minutes, it was still behind me. Same distance, same lane. No attempt to pass, no attempt to turn off. The road was mostly empty. That was when I started paying attention. 20 minutes later, it was still there. By now, my stomach was in knots. I called my cousin. He answered immediately. I told him what was happening. He asked for the plate number. I couldn't get close enough to read it. The van kept its distance.
Then he asked me something that made me feel even worse. What if they're following the trailer, not you? I hadn't thought about that. The landscaping trailer had thousands of dollars worth of equipment attached to it. Suddenly, the situation felt very different. I decided to test it. At the next exit, I got off the interstate. The exit led to a small rural road with almost no traffic. The van followed. At that point, I knew it wasn't a coincidence. I drove for another few minutes before spotting a small convenience store that was still open. I pulled into the parking lot. The van slowed down. For a second, I expected it to enter behind me. Instead, it kept driving. I felt relief immediately. Maybe I had imagined everything. Maybe it really was just a coincidence. I parked and stayed there for about 10 minutes. Then I got back on the road. About 15 minutes later, I looked into my mirror. The white van was behind me again. My heart dropped. I have no idea how. There were dozens of roads it could have taken. Yet somehow, it was back. I called my cousin again. This time, he told me not to stop anywhere isolated. He stayed on the phone while I drove. Around 2 a.m., I finally saw a large truck stop ahead. Bright lights, lots of people, plenty of cameras. I headed straight for it. The van followed me all the way to the entrance. As I turned into the truck stop, it slowed down, then stopped on the shoulder. I watched through my mirror. The van remained there for several seconds. Then it made a U-turn and drove away. I thought it was over. I parked near a row of semi-trucks and sat there trying to calm down. Eventually, I got out to use the restroom. The truck stop was busy enough that I finally felt safe. After washing my hands, I walked back toward the parking lot. That's when I froze. Parked near the far edge of the property was the same white cargo van. The engine was off. The lights were off. But it was there. I knew it was the same van. Same dent on the rear door. Same missing front plate. I immediately went back inside. I waited nearly an hour. When I finally looked outside again, it was gone. Nothing else happened. I delivered the trailer the next morning and returned home. A week later, I told my boss about it. Before I even finished the story, he interrupted me. Then he asked me a question. What color was the van? When I told him it was white, he got quiet. Apparently, another employee had reported almost the exact same thing a few months earlier while transporting equipment through the same area. Same type of van, same late-night highway, same feeling of being followed. Nobody ever figured out who was inside or what they wanted. Maybe they were planning to steal equipment. Maybe they were waiting for me to stop somewhere secluded. Or maybe it was something else entirely. All I know is that whenever I see a white cargo van late at night, I still check my mirrors a little more often than I used to.